Imagine you're in the coldest ecosystem on Earth, Antarctica. You're probably seeing a lot of ice, a lot of rocks, a lot of water, and yeah, a lot of penguins too. Considering temperatures can reach as low as -40 degrees Celsius, and it's the same in Fahrenheit for the uncivilized imperial system folks here, hypothermia will set in at around 5 minutes from now.
Since you are certainly not dressed for the occasion, you might want to put on some warmer clothes.
Great, now you will only freeze to death slowly. To make matters worse, insects also live in Antarctica, and the largest of them all is related to mosquitoes. Luckily these midges don't bite, and they lack wings, so they won't be able to buzz in your ear at night. But then again, by nightfall you will have succumbed to hypothermia anyway, so you wouldn't be able to notice the difference. And you're still at risk for tick bites. Yep, you won't be able to escape ticks on any continent on this planet. Add to that the fact that food services are pretty bad here, and it's the only continent without pizza. Enough reason to type a bad review and leave this place straight away. Right? Well, stick around, because life is about to become a lot more shitty. And that is actually an advantage. You see, life on Antarctica is a bit more magical than that of your average freezer. At least if you clean it regularly, you filthy pig. In addition to insects, there are 2 species of flowering plants just chilling here, or whatever it is plants do on a daily basis. Together with mosses, fungi, bacteria and invertebrates, they form the terrestrial ecosystem. However, these life forms need nitrogen and other nutrients to sustain themselves, which are pretty hard to come by in a cold and icy desert environment like Antarctica. This is where our fluffy friends come in. The excretions of penguins, other seabirds and seals provide nutrients to the terrestrial ecosystem. And penguins poop. A lot. In fact, they poop so much that you can even see it from outer space. What makes Antarctica more fun though is that the bacteria in the soil produce nitrous oxide, or laughing gas, from penguin poop, which sometimes makes researching penguins a little bit more difficult. However, given the nutrients this poop brings to the continent, the poop is of vital importance in sustaining all the other life forms on land. But since penguins, seabirds and seals get their food from the ocean, terrestrial life is therefore by extension actually dependent on life in the southern Antarctic Sea. You know, this thing here. So, if you thought freezing temperatures were an annoyance on land already, imagine swimming in them. Turns out that is pretty hard to do, as 95% of the Antarctic Sea biomass is made up of only one group of fish, the ice fish, and not much else. Unlike what the name suggests, these fish are not made of ice, and that is actually what is so remarkable about them. They don't freeze. So ice fish don't actually look like this, they look more like this. Not as cute as penguins, but they make up for it by being extreme. And slightly less annoying. But how do they survive such a cold environment with little nutrients? Before we dive in, although we already did, it's good to realize that the food chain linking the continent with the ocean of Antarctica is pretty simple. Plankton at the surface and detritus and copepods at the bottom get eaten by krill, which really like to boogie. Krill get eaten by ice fish, and penguins, seabirds and seals in turn feed on fish, krill or other invertebrates. Now, unlike mammals and birds, which can shield themselves from the cold with layers of fat, producing their own body heat and having a heat exchange system in the blood vessels, ice fish do not have this luxury, and so they need to rely on a different mechanism.